Hi all, week 8, final week. Congratulations, good job. I've enjoyed your discussions. I've enjoyed reading your work, and I've enjoyed the ways that you have branched out and tried new things through this course together. I will get to your writing assignment 7s as soon as I'm able to, so you can get started revising them for writing assignment 8. Please make sure that what you turn in for writing assignment 8 is a clean copy. No track changes. Please don't have my comments still on there or any of your own edits. It should be a brand new clean copy and as perfect as you can make it in terms of watching for those pesky grammatical or mechanical errors that we've seen for some of you throughout the term, and I'm hoping that you're getting down some of the rules that can fix those so that they're no longer an issue for you. Still time to ask me questions up until you graduate. After you graduate, feel free to ask. I can help you with those so that they're not an issue for you. I just returned from 4 days in Santa Barbara, California. A very interesting experience. I can't remember if I have shared with all of you, but I'm a candidate for ordination as a pastor in the Presbyterian Church. So there were 6 of us who were in the final stages. This has been a 5.5-year process for me so far, and hopefully getting down to just the final last couple of months here before I will be ordained. There were 6 of us nationwide who had gathered for what they called a retreat, but we corrected them on that and said this was more of an intensive. It was a fascinating experience. So it was 4 days of basically being in groups or one at a time having to present, or sometimes we would get role-playing assignments where we would be pulled out and put one-on-one, and 7 assessors throughout the 4 days walking around silently with clipboards. They were very nice people. These are the national heads of our denomination, but in this process, they were, of course, with masks on, just quietly walking around, kind of assessing everything that we did, every project that we did and then presented, every time that we were asked to think through a situation and talk it through as a group. There were people behind us walking around and listening and assessing. So pretty high stress for those 4 days, and very interesting kind of psychological study and also organizational management study of how we were working together in teams and how people react in that much high pressure for 4 days. So what interested me, I think, the most, and what I want to share with you, is kind of this idea of our assumptions about story. And I realized that each of the 6 of us, as we arrived, came with our own, I'm not really sure if I'm quite there, or it's not so much a worthiness idea, but just a wondering if the fact that my story is not the typical, if that makes it okay. So for me, I am an English professor, so why am I seeking ordination as a pastor, right? It's not the normal route. I suppose, what is the normal route? The normal route would be you get a calling on your life from early on, you go to school in order to pursue that, and then you go on to the next level of school, and then you go on and you get ordained. And that's not been my route at all. I do feel called to it, but I've come through it this kind of a route. And what was interesting to me is as I met the other 5 members of my cohort, I realized none of us had walked a straight route. So other people who were there with me, one is a guy who's an attorney, and he, in fact, had finished law school but realized that he was in it for the wrong reasons and had gotten bored during COVID. He was working at a Chinese church, actually, even though he himself is Anglo, and he decided to take the bar. Isn't that what we all do when we're bored in COVID? Is just, I think I'll take the bar. So he took the bar exam, passed it, and is working as an attorney and in a church, and was wondering when he came to this time together in Santa Barbara whether or not that would even work. Like, can you do 2 jobs at once, be an attorney and be a pastor? And he looked at my example, professor and pastor, and realized, yeah, maybe this can work. There was another guy who had done all of his training and all of his professional experience as a campaign manager in Washington, D.C., in politics. So he's completely trained in politics and then deviated over and realized same thing, that really wasn't in it for the right reasons and was feeling kind of sucked by that line of work and decided to go into ministry. There was a woman there who all her life had trained for and dreamed of being a foreign correspondent as a journalist. And so she also talked about why and what were the passions there. There was another woman who was a little older than I am who had worked for many years as a flight attendant and probably was feeling like, am I equipped for this? Am I the right person to step into this? But again, was feeling the calling on her life. Fascinating group of people, and fascinating to me to realize that each of our stories was so uniquely different and so uniquely correct for what God intended for us and what our life's plan was going to be. And my word to you is to, number one, recognize in this tumultuous time how critical story is. Story is the way that we connect with one another as humans. It's the way that we might read something seeking to see whether or not someone else has experienced what we've experienced and whether or not we're crazy or actually there's a human connection to be made. And we can realize that what we're going through, if it's really rough, if it's really joyful, whatever it might be, can be simply character building, and that it's okay and that we are okay. And then the second thing I hope that you've realized in our various TED Talks and conversations is that story is not what really sort of the secular postmodern 21st century world will suggest, which is a neat package story. It's sort of that up and to the right, right? Like you start here and then you achieve this, achieve this, achieve this. I'm going the wrong direction on your screen, but you get the idea. Going up and to the right, succeeding. Yes, that's great, but most stories are not that way. Most stories are a circuitous path that might feel to us like it's not the right path, and should we really be here? Are we in the right place? And I know some of you must be resonating with that. But my argument would be that those are the best stories. Those are the best stories. That up and to the right aren't that interesting. And in fact, that's not the person that I'm going to seek out when I'm going through a hard time. The person I'm going to seek out is the person who's walked a little bit more difficult path. Maybe has made some really lousy decisions and messed things up along the way and then come back around and figured out a new way. So I hope that you will, first of all, own your own story well. And know that your own story is who you are, it informs who you are, and it informs your ability to communicate with other people. And number two, have a deep, deep sensitivity to the humanness of other people's stories, that there isn't a right story that we all should fit into. And I know a lot of you have expressed that maybe in other writing courses or the way that you've been trained, there's this expectation of exactly this way. And that doesn't feel good. So let's not impart that on other people either. Let's recognize in 2020 how critical story is. And now that you have just sort of seeped in it over 8 weeks and what the components are and what the possibilities are, what can you bring into your world, into your home life, into your church life, into your professional life that will help others to see the importance of story, help others to share their story? And what ways will you share yours a little bit more broadly, having had this class? If you have questions, I'm here from now through graduation and beyond. Blessings on your week.